Good morning. It's a joy to be back with you all today, especially in this way. It's always sweet to be among this particular community of people who have known me since I first moved to the area for grad school a little over 8 years ago now. You have cared for me, fed me, housed me, and sustained me. So for your efforts, it feels like I get to give back a portion of the harvest with you today. My prayer is that my words are edifying and that they encourage you on your Christian journey or whatever journey you're on, as you have encouraged me on mine. Our passage today is the final chapter in a very significant family drama. I have to confess that I love a good intergenerational family drama. I'm fascinated by the forces that shape people, forces that may be set in motion years or generations before someone is even born. Some of my favorite stories in this genre include shows like The Sopranos, The Crown, Succession, and the book Wuthering Heights. All involve relationships across generations, which stage very intimate struggles for love and power. In family dramas, the stakes are high because the roots are deep, and the drama that proceeds is second to none. These stories depict the intimacy and depth of human relationship, the way our personalities are shaped by our early childhood relationships, and they act as a stage in which larger themes of love and belonging, gender roles, power, social conflict play out. In these stories, but in all stories really, there is one level of plot and character, and then there is a level deeper, which reveals something universal about the human experience. So for example, on one level, there's a particular man named Tony in New Jersey whose job as a mob boss stresses his family relationships and his personal well-being. But on one level deeper, The Sopranos is really about universal themes like the American dream, the modern family, masculinity, morality. The story of Joseph also has multiple layers of meaning, and arguably some similarities to The Sopranos, but that's for another sermon. On one level, the story of Joseph is about Joseph's family's betrayal and his eventual reconciliation with his brothers. On one level deeper, it's about the founding of the nation of Israel and the Jewish people's ongoing migration into Egypt. And even deeper, it's about God's revelation of God's self to humankind through a particular group of people, and about the messy people and complicated plot lines that God uses to bring about reconciliation. So most of you know the story of Joseph. He's the favored son among his 11 other brothers because he's conceived in his father Jacob's old age. He receives a gift from his father, the coat of many colors, indicating his favoritism. The coat spurs jealousy and resentment among his brothers. And shortly thereafter, Joseph, who has a talent of dream interpretation, tells his brothers that he had a dream that they were all bowing down to him. In the story, Joseph is talented and prophetic, but also arrogant. His brothers, sick of his arrogance and special treatment, throw him into a pit and sell him into slavery, telling their father Jacob he has died. The drama is truly unmatched in this story. Joseph's time as a slave in Egypt is full of twists and turns. He finds favor with Potiphar, one of the guards, and because of his special talent of interpreting dreams, he's promoted up the ranks in the Egyptian royal house and eventually becomes a powerful administrator in the Egyptian government. Our passage today picks up around 20 years after Joseph was betrayed by his brothers. His brothers now are forced to journey to neighboring Egypt, where Joseph is, to buy grain, which is in short supply in famine-struck Canaan. It is here that Joseph encounters them. The scene of reunification between Joseph and his brothers is intimate, it's moving, human. It's a passage that is tender and full, climactic and paradigmatic. I read it and I wonder how we have made the Bible seem so dull and flat when it is teeming with such emotion and complexity. There are three deeper themes here that I want to highlight in this finale between Joseph and his brothers, about the way that God is moving through this particular family and about the way God is still moving today. First, the parameters of reconciliation. Joseph first asks the public officials to leave the room before he reveals his identity to his brothers. In asking them to leave, he sets certain parameters, or what we might call today setting boundaries or creating a safe space for this emotional exchange with his brothers. It's a sign of respect and reverence for the depth of their connection. He initiates reconciliation on his time. Remember, he was the one who was wronged, who was sold into slavery. The reconciliation here is on his terms. And the passage today does not include the prior scene where Joseph first encounters his brothers and chooses not to reveal himself to them. He instead tests them by staging a theft and framing them to test their character and see if they had changed since he last saw them. Joseph did not move unwisely towards forgiveness. It's these parameters, these boundaries that allow the exchange to occur. The tears, the weeping, the holding, respect is established first. And in revealing his identity, Joseph names himself not as a public official, but as a brother. In Joseph's authenticity, God is revealed too. Love is poured from vessel to vessel. God moves among and within God's people, deeply and intimately interwoven in our relations, the very fabric of life itself. For John Calvin, this passage is about providence. God was working behind the scenes all along for good. For Martin Luther, this passage is about Joseph as a Christ figure. The death of his former self gave birth to a life after death and a life for generations to come. For theologian Charles Wood, this passage shows a God that is moving among us and sometimes in spite of us. In our failures, our jealousies, our family conflict, God is moving. God is breathing. Second, in Joseph's concern for his brother's well-being, we see a God that cares about the social welfare of others and about future generations. Joseph tells his brothers, God sent me before you to preserve life. There is now a famine in the region. In the ancient world, agriculture was not just the backbone of the economy, it was the economy. So when famine struck, widespread economic and social hardship inevitably followed. Joseph's family now faces the reality of poverty, with both their food supply and their livelihood taken from them. Joseph tells them that he will ensure their family's survival. They will not perish from the famine. He has set aside land for them. And not only for them, but for their children and their children's children, for their flocks and their herds and all that they have. God sends Joseph ahead to preserve life. And in doing so, God shows a concern for the livelihood of future generations, for the welfare of God's people. Joseph's actions in the present story will have lasting generational consequences. Our actions today will have lasting generational consequences. God is concerned with the continuation of life after our time here on earth. Are we? God provides for those in famine and in poverty. Do we? Third, the passage today reveals a God whose model of power is one of empowerment. At the beginning of our story today, Joseph has all the power. He is now a high-ranking official, his family on the brink of starvation. The tables have turned. He could have let his brothers pass by and they never would have known any different. In fact, the ones who sold him into slavery would have gotten their comeuppance. But instead, Joseph chooses to use his power in a way that uplifts, that empowers, that leaves his family cared for and his lineage continued. Now, remember at the beginning when I talked about the multiple layers and stories? So this is a story of a family reunion, but it's really about turning power on its head. About a man who has an opportunity to exert power over, but chooses power with. And in this turning of power on its head, there is an inbreaking of heaven on earth. A lineage is continued, and God's promise to Abraham and Sarah renewed. A new reality here among us. And in this new reality, betrayed will see justice, betrayer will be forgiven, children will be cared for, and mouths will be fed. Flocks looked after, families reunited. Like Abraham and Sarah, like Joseph, like our mothers and fathers who have gone before us, may we yield our lives to this inbreaking. May what is from God find a home fitting in our hearts, in our communities, and our families. Amen.